Welcome to How to Find More Direct Clients Than You Can Poke a Stick At podcast, a mix of both solo episodes and expert interviews. Our ideal listener is an early career, ambitious, and passionate online language services provider. She is committed to professional growth and achieving success in the fiercely competitive translation and interpreting industry. She balances multiple responsibilities with resourcefulness, values mentorship, is open to learning, and investing in her professional development journey. She embraces technology and seeks to optimize workflow, eager to connect with like-minded peers and build out her professional network. She is determined to overcome challenges and become a sought-after freelance translator. And here's your host, medical translator and translator business mentor, Jason Willis Lee.
And welcome to another edition of How to Find More Direct Clients, the podcast that makes digital marketing both easier and more enjoyable by blending smart business strategies with just the right dose of tech. I'm your host, Jason Willis Lee, digital marketing specialist, and today I'm very excited to welcome a special guest. His name is Sam Swirsky, and he is a LinkedIn and a job search pro. Sam, fantastic to have you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for getting up early, because you just told me it's 6 in the morning over where you are in Dallas. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm just going to go to bed right after this.
Okay. Sam, can you share a bit about your business journey a little bit and your unique vision for LinkedIn and job search? Tell us more about that, because that's something I'm very interested in now. I'm helping colleagues with their own job searches. So yeah.
Absolutely. So I had kind of a tumultuous time in my 20s. I would just try different jobs. I tried my own, little businesses a few different times, and nothing seemed to really click. I had a couple of brothers who told me that I should get on LinkedIn. And I'm thinking, look, I've never had a corporate job. I don't have a college degree. I don't know what I'm going to do on this website, but I'm going to get on there and I'm just going to try to be as encouraging as I can to people. And I'm going to try to really learn the platform, and then somehow maybe that'll work. And little did I know that was the best possible strategy that I could have used. And I started studying the platform. It got the attention of some of the kind of bigger creators on LinkedIn. So it got me some good opportunities. And I've really kind of studied both sides. There's two main sides of LinkedIn. There's kind of the content creator business side, there's the job seeker side, and both of the sides really fascinate me. And there's just a lot you can do as far as LinkedIn to really kind of boost your job search and to stand out in a really unique way. I've got a pretty unique method for finding jobs that most people are trying to kind of apply it all over the place. And just like with my LinkedIn content, I'm very personalized. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of to me, that's the best approach. That's what I've found people have.
Let's get into the specifics later. But one of those opportunities was with Justin Welsh, and this was a pivotal moment in your career. What did you learn from working with Justin? How did it propel you into working with some of the highest profile creators in the industry? How did that specifically propel you forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I got working with Justin and Jennifer Welsh because I had made an article where I went and I researched kind of the background of LinkedIn creators and how long it took them to really kind of launch and get their brand off the ground. And it was an illuminating article for a lot of people because it showed that, hey, they're just like us. They all had to really try for a long time, going unnoticed, to finally be recognized. And Justin Welsh was one of the people that I mentioned. And I think that kind of helped get their attention to ask me to be their community manager in an online LinkedIn focused community. And I think people think that's really impressive of me. And look, I was brand new on LinkedIn. It was just very gracious that Justin and Jennifer were kind of willing to take me on at that point. And, I'll tell you, working with Justin, he really kind of opened my eyes to the fact that anything is possible if you just like really, really work for it. I remember speaking with him on one of our first calls, and he was talking about plans of something that he had to do. And I said, like, don't doubt yourself. Like, you got this. And it was such a weird thing to say to Justin Welsh, but he looked at me like dead in the eyes and he said, I don't doubt myself. Like, as in, like, not ever doubt myself. And I was just taken aback. Like, that's not how most people speak. And I think it kind of shows a little light, sheds a little light into the kind of person that he is, where he's worked really hard and he's just it's not even just the hard work, but it's knowing, hey, I can take on something that nobody's prepared for in entrepreneurship or in doing this thing on LinkedIn and really make it.
Did I see in your profile that you also have had contact with acquisition.com? That's Alex Hormozy. Can you talk a little about that? I mean,
Sure.
Hormozy
Yes.
buys companies and invests in them.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So Alex and Layla Hormozy, big fan of them for a long time. Still am a very big fan. I talk to people all the time. I'm always recommending $100 million offers for anyone that kind of wants to get into business and get a sustainable offer. I had been working as a community strategist in another community at the time, headed by this guy called Taslim. And through a very bizarre series of circumstances, the recruiter of acquisition.com reached out to me and was wondering, hey, I was wondering if you are interested in this new role we have, or if maybe you know of some people, we'd like some names. And so they set up a meeting with me, and the job was as LinkedIn brand strategist. And I thought it was kind of doing an interview. It was me and Frank, the recruiter, and Caleb, who's the brand director. And I was a huge fan of Caleb, so I was like freaking out because I had watched one of or two of his podcasts, and he was one of the main videographers for Gary Vaynerchuk. And I was just so stoked. And I'm talking to them, and they're like, "Oh, just so you know, like we want some names. If you have some names you could suggest." So I thought it was just a job interview, and they were telling me, "Well, we'd like some suggestions." So I took that, but they're like, "But you should apply as well." But I took that very seriously, and I thought, if they want some suggestions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them some suggestions. So I went through, and I'm pretty well connected on LinkedIn, and just found a ton of really highly qualified people, some more than myself, I should say, I would reckon, and talked to them. I said, hey, are you interested in this job? So I qualified them first and then sent them over to LinkedIn. I mean, sorry, not over to LinkedIn, sent them over to acquisition.com.
Mhm.
And I remember they were they were so happy with me doing that part of the job. They sent me a cake in the mail. I was I was so excited to have it, because I figured, look, they're asking for a favor. I'm going to do the favor first. And then after I sent all these other people and all my friends and everything, then I applied, and then I competed against them for the role.
I think Pat Flynn of SPI Pro also had a videographer named Caleb. Would that be the same Caleb, do you think, or is that somebody else?
I'm not sure. No, I mean,
Okay.
he's had a few different roles, and he also had his own business for a while,
Mm.
doing stuff. So I mean, he's the guy. Like, um, if people in the creator space on YouTube need someone to come in some. I don't think he's doing as much as the videographer stuff now, but that creative brand role. I can't imagine they're not all talking about him. Like, I wish we could get Caleb. He's with acquisition.com. Like, I don't think he's going anywhere now.
So he's a
But
KPI. He's a key person of influence
oh
in
yeah,
the space. Yeah, yeah,
he's just a master of what he does.
yeah. That's amazing. So on the LinkedIn profile I looked at to prepare for this interview, you call yourself the mayor of LinkedIn. A couple of your buddies have been referring to you as the mayor. So as the mayor, Mr. Mayor, would you please give us a couple of, just dive deeper into a couple of specific tips for my audience? I help people with two things. One, transition into other careers away from translation and interpreting. And two, those that stay in the industry, they need to get more comfortable with AI. So LinkedIn is, I think, a
Sure.
vital platform. Could you just give us a couple of, broad brushstrokes of sprucing up our profile? What's really important on LinkedIn to get
Yeah,
right?
thank you. And I appreciate you going through my profile and doing some research
Sure.
for the interview. That feels awesome. I think transcriptionists have a unique opportunity. The technique that I use and that I talk to people about using in the job search is, when somebody puts up a job and people apply for it and they send in their resume, they send in their cover letter, they get on interviews, there's one core question that's being asked. And the question is, can this person do the job?
Yeah.
And there's kind of this polite dance that everyone does, like around the subject, without actually definitively answering the subject.
Mm.
And I've I've kind of just bypassed all those people by saying, instead of presenting theoretically that I would be a good fit for this, I just go and start doing the job. And then that way you can go through like a job description. And what I did for acquisition.com is they had a fairly long job description. I copy and pasted the whole thing. I put it into a document, and I went line by line and just explained how I would do every single aspect of the job. It took a few hours to go through. And I know that seems daunting to a lot of people, because what most people are doing is they see a lot of different jobs. They're like, let me apply to as many jobs as possible. But from what I've seen, that doesn't work very well. And it's also the method that everyone else is using. So it's really, really hard to stand out in that way. But if you go through, you do that. And then additionally, I just found line items where, hey, we would like somebody to do this. We would like somebody to do that. I just started doing some of those things,
Mm-hmm.
or even I started doing some things that were adjacent that I thought would be helpful. So I would do LinkedIn profile reviews for Alex and Layla and send them in. I would just kind of do different assessments, send in, hey, consider this. I started making it so that every touch point that I had with the recruiter, Frank, was a positive one, where I was just giving them stuff. And that blows people away because it's very unexpected. Additionally, I mean, I don't always recommend this to people because you kind of have to finesse it, but just if you can even recommend other people, say, hey, it's great to meet with you. If you haven't looked into this company or that company, you totally should. They're awesome to work with. That's a power move. If you're getting on a job interview and you're saying, hey, it's great to meet, and here's some other people in the field that are also really good. People are taken back. They're like, okay, this is clearly a leader in their space. They know who's good in this space. They're willing to suggest other people. And it's all about kind of that confidence. But that's the main thing, is if you can just convince the other person on the other end, and this goes with getting jobs, it also goes with getting clients as an entrepreneur, where for a transcriptionist, that's sometimes I'll have people say, well, Sam, I don't know how I can do that in my field. Well, you can definitely do that as a transcriptionist, whether it's the exact thing they want done or not, because they may want you to transcribe specific documents, but you can find something related to the person that you're going to be talking with and transcribe that thing for them.
Yeah.
However that kind of looks, and then just put in those examples. And a lot of times they're going to have you do that stuff anyway, further down in the job interview. So you're just skipping ahead of everyone else by just getting it done right away.
Do you advocate any different strategies for freelancers compared to people looking for employers? So most of my audience, or the vast majority, I would say the entire audience, will be freelance language service providers. We are translators, interpreters, copywriters. Is there any different LinkedIn strategy for freelancers that you would advocate instead of people looking for traditional employee roles?
Sure. So I like Upwork. I think Upwork is a great platform. I know people use Upwork and Fiverr
Right.
and different freelancing platforms like that. The way to use those platforms is a little bit different than a traditional job site. So you probably know this, but on Upwork, for instance, you're sending a proposal in for a job versus just applying for a job. And so what a lot of people will do is they will treat the proposal like a job application, and it's not a job application. That's a big mistake that a lot of people are making, because on these freelancing websites, they're looking for someone to come in who can just get the job done right away. That's an expert in their field that they don't have to do a lot of training for. Typically, an employee coming in for a role has a few weeks of training and onboarding before they kind of take on the responsibilities of a job. But a freelancer, it's a fly by the seat of your pants profession. You've got to just step in and do the role.
Yeah.
And so I'll do the same thing that I reference with the job applications. If you see somebody says, hey, I need this done in this role, I'll take it and I'll explain line by line, and I'll basically use their job description as a template for my message to them, and then I'll remove the original lines of their job description. So it answers all of their questions without it even looking like I'm directly answering all of their questions. It just looks really smooth. But you have to act as the authority. And something that I have found to be really effective is that I will give pushback. See, an employee is looking to just say, hey, I can do all of these things. I'm not going to be any kind of problem. I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be whatever. Oftentimes when people are asking for an expert to help them, they don't even really know. They wouldn't even really be able to put together a good job description for what you are able to do. So I'll go in and say, hey, this is, my brother was working pretty much full time on Upwork. Like, it's just, I was showing him the ropes there, and there's a lot you can do there on that platform. And the nice thing about Upwork is that you can just continually give yourself raises. So if you go in and you say, hey, this is how much I'm going to charge. I like charging by the project instead of the hour, because as an employee, what happens is every time you get more efficient, you're basically taking a pay decrease. So if it used to take you an hour to transcribe this many documents, and now you've gotten really good at it, and so it takes you 40 minutes. That's what the company is banking on, is that you're going to get more efficient. But as the person working, you want to get paid just as much, if not more, for being efficient with your time. So that's the advantage on Upwork, is that you can just either for individual clients or just as you grow, hey, I'm going to move it from 40, 50, 60, 70, whatever dollars, more or less per hour that you're kind of blocking and moving on from there. But there's a ton of opportunities for freelancers. I study that quite a bit. It's really interesting to me because it's a whole different job kind of career dynamic. It's almost in between owning your own business and working a regular job. And I think it's misunderstood. So sorry, what I was saying that I'll do is somebody will put out a job description, and if I disagree with it, or a contractor position, freelancer position, if I disagree with certain aspects of the role, I will say so in the proposal. I'll say, hey, I see that you suggest doing this and this. I actually would urge you to instead consider doing it this way. And 99% of people, number one, are not going to give a detailed proposal when they send it in. And then number two, they're not going to provide any kind of pushback. They're acting like an employee. They just want to agree to everything to get the job. As the expert, you have to show your authority right away. And it actually makes people feel an incredible sense of relief on the other end, because they know, oh my gosh, okay, I just put together this description based on the limited information that I knew about this role. But this person is coming in and they're saying not only can they do the role, but they know everything about the role that I don't even have to, rack my brain over trying to figure out to teach it to you. So if you can do that, you focus on a few roles at a time and send it out. This works for Upwork, but it would also work for other freelancing sites. It really, really sets you apart.
Yeah, a couple of points from that. Thank you. One is the price erosion aspect, where you said the employee's billable hour goes down and down the more efficient they are. I call that price erosion in my world when I'm squeezed further on. So I might be charging X amount of euros for a project, and then I'm squeezed further I may have banked for 5 hours, and then the client asks for another 5 hours. So that's price erosion. The second point is a lot of freelancers, as you said, fly by the seat of their pants. You know, we're only as good as our last job, so we need customer loyalty. It's much harder. It's much harder keeping several bosses, which is the solopreneur's life, happy than one boss, right? You just go in, you do your hours, you might have an exclusivity clause in your contract. You can't moonlight for other, you can't do other gigs. So I think that's changing, and you're absolutely right. You know, freelancing is halfway between employeeship and entrepreneurship, and I'm now sort of navigating a transition between this 25 years behind me of freelancing as a medical translator and small business owner. Let's move on to another question. I pulled out this other phrase from your copy, which is achieving the impossible, impossible in quotation marks. Could you highlight a few, or just a couple, or maybe one impossible achievement you've achieved since this breakthrough on LinkedIn? And how has that shaped you helping others build their professional careers and build out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really like your phrase. Your phrase, what was it? Price erosion.
Price erosion. Yeah. So
That's
that's
really good. I
you like
think I'm
that.
going to start using it because I haven't had a good term for how I'm describing it to people, and that's just way better than what I'm currently using. So I think I'm going to steal that if that's all right.
That is fine. Yeah, that is fine. That's a nice
Good,
phrase.
good.
It's
Uh,
not patented, so I'm not
okay,
charging you any
not patented.
copyright.
All right, I
No.
won't have to pay you royalties every month in order to use the phrase.
That would be
I
nice. Wouldn't that be
appreciate that.
nice? Wouldn't that be nice?
That would be nice. That would be nice. I'll say working for the Hormozis, one thing that I kind of brought to the table was um, they, and I think it's part of the reason I got hired. I went through like 4 interviews. Uh,
Wow.
they wanted to know how I was going to kind of use LinkedIn to help their brand and what I would do differently and what I wanted. And I think the issue is when you become really good in your field, oftentimes people will say, "Hey, this is everything you need to do." And I was just honestly just freaking out that I had the opportunity to work for Alex and Layla Hormozy and the whole team. Learned a lot from everyone. And when they asked me that question, I was like, what would you do as far as the brand? I said, look, Alex and Layla have a fantastic brand already. I don't want to mess with it. I just want to bring it to LinkedIn
Yeah.
and make it shine there. And that was really my attitude as far as kind of the content side. I also I didn't just copy and paste from other platforms onto LinkedIn. I really kind of finessed. It wasn't really ghostwriting so much as it was taking what was 90% theirs and content in different pieces. And so I would assemble it together and make it look like it was a brand new poster on LinkedIn. And that's why I did so well. But in the first week of working, I was working for them for a few weeks before they let me kind of take control of the content. But in my first week of working for them, we hit Alex Hormozy's all-time view record on LinkedIn. I was like, okay, clearly we've got something here. And so that's a big part of it is everyone has a unique brand. And it's really easy to get sucked into this idea of that, okay, this person is popular or this person's doing this thing. And I just have to copy these other people in order to be successful. And you don't. Everyone has a unique brand. And it's even if you're not on social media, your brand is what does your friends and your family think of you, your coworkers, what is your reputation? What are your values? What is your character? And you just bring that to other places. So it's not it's tricky for people because they're thinking they have to create this whole new persona or something. And I like playing around with different personas like the mayor of LinkedIn and that kind of thing. But really, your persona is the person that you already are. And so that takes a little bit more reflection,
Mm.
honestly, I think sometimes, and just diving into that and saying, okay, well, who am I? How do I kind of get on these different platforms? How do I show people who I am? But that's kind of one of the main, things I would kind of suggest for people is just to recognize that it's not that they're just coming in fresh. Everyone's coming in with all the experiences that they've already had, and they can use that to make themselves stand out because nobody is you. Nobody has
Exactly.
the experiences
Yeah.
and everything that you do.
Yeah, that's personal branding, and I think the mayor of LinkedIn, it's a nice, catchy avatar that you've created for yourself, which is nice to lean into. I certainly caught on to that. So I help Sam, a lot of freelance translators with their content marketing strategies. They're just starting out. They're starting to build out confidence to go out online and not care what people are thinking, and having that confidence to live online, which is the whole online business idea. What is something that you can say to them to sort of, maybe someone's listening to this thinking, oh, I haven't posted on LinkedIn yet, or maybe I need to do it more regularly. What is something that you would encourage them to get out of that imposter syndrome and just go ahead and post?
I love your questions. You're really making me think, and in a way that just gets me really excited to talk about this stuff. For LinkedIn is really cool because anyone can just get on there and start posting. The other side of that is it's really easy to get self-conscious about what you're putting out. And I've seen it happen with people. I've talked to people where they get so nervous about creating a post, they put it out there. If it doesn't get very many views or likes in the first, say 20, 30 minutes, hour or something, they just take it down. And that's not what you need to worry about. Because I will tell you from this article I did, even a lot of the biggest creators were putting out posts that nobody was liking, that nobody seemed to appreciate, and it took them a long time to get to where they needed to go. So I talk a lot about being persistent, even more than being consistent. Consistency is great, but I have seen people who were very consistent on LinkedIn, where consistency should be applied to every area of your content journey. Some people apply it to, I'm going to post every day, but I'm not going to continually get better at writing. I'm not going to get to know my audience. I'm not going to network. And so if you're saying, well, I'm being consistent, well, it only counts if you're being consistent in every area that you need to grow, or at least in most areas. And then I've seen it where people will be consistent for 2 years posting, and then they'll just drop off the face of the platform.
Right.
And I'm like, where did my friend go? what happened here? I think it's better to be persistent. Even if you can take up something that works for you. If that's posting once a week, consistently over a long period of time, do that. I'm 4.5 years into a 10-year commitment to posting on LinkedIn and to growing a brand on LinkedIn. 4.5 years ago, I wrote that article. It kind of took off. I thought, you know what? One viral post is not going to do it. So I am going to spend a lot of time here. In fact, right after that article, I posted for 550 days in a row. So that is consistent. So I know what I'm talking about when it comes to being consistent. And believe me, it's better to just be persistent, to have a long-term vision. Organic branding is something that really only works if you do it over a long period of time,
Right.
because then it starts to work for you overnight. Like I had a client recently that he's been following me for years, and we haven't talked too much, and we haven't even kind of spoken to each other in the comments very much, but he reached out to me and he said, I've been following you for years. I'd like to work together. And I just thought, okay, this is amazing. And we're working together right now. So it's, as long as you're consistent over time, people have been burned. And if they can see your character through your posts, so you're consistent in your posts, through how you respond to people in the commenting on LinkedIn, and this goes for a lot of other platforms as well, then it's really hard to deny your excellence over time.
How long did it take you to build out a 12K audience? I mean, from 0 to 12K, how many years did that take?
Um, I would say almost 4.5 years, because when I got started, I didn't have a whole bunch of people to add from previous jobs and stuff.
Right.
In fact, they had these things for a while, and I think they still have them, where it's kind of these connection little posts on LinkedIn, like, hey, you can connect with everyone here in this post. And I thought, okay, that's what I need to do. And I'm not a fan of those now, because it's better to connect with people that are kind of intentional and everything. But I added a ton of those people. And then after a while, I think before I even hit 500, or maybe right after hitting 500 connections, I thought, this was a bad idea. And I went in and deleted removed almost every single one of those connections because I wanted to do it kind of the slow way and the good way. And I have 1,200, almost 1,200 followers, but I only have like 3,000 connections. That's because I don't accept everyone's connection request.
Right.
And back in the day, if you rejected someone's connection request, it meant they weren't automatically following you as well. So it meant something more back in the day than it does now. But yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, over the 5 years, I guess I could say, I more or less built that up.
Let's move into the final five, Sam. We ask all our guests these questions. What is the best
Ooh.
business advice that Alex and Layla Hormozi gave you? What is the best advice you picked up from those guys?
Yeah, it was great being able to work with Alex and Layla, especially because you could work with them in person,
Right.
and they would actually give you some good advice. Not actually, all of their advice is pretty good.
Did you have to travel to see them? Was this in
No,
Dallas
I worked
or
in Vegas with them.
in Vegas? Right. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I moved out there as soon as I got the job.
Wow.
So you know, I was talking about kind of how do you build up your brand? How do you what's kind of the biggest thing? I don't even remember the original question, but Alex said, really, you just have to stick with whoever you are. Just build out your brand. And it's cliche, like to be authentic or whatever. But he'll talk sometimes, I think, about Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is into politics sometimes and aliens and conspiracy theories, and he's also into martial arts. Like, he's a very full faceted person, and he puts all of that out onto not onto LinkedIn, sorry, onto social media.
Yeah.
And he's like, you just got to be yourself, and you can't shy away from that. And that was just in a conversation that we had with some other people in a room, and it just really struck me. I'm like, okay, I I sometimes feel kind of shy about certain aspects of my personality, and I don't always display them on social media. And I've been slowly working towards kind of bringing more and more of myself out onto into social media, and even things like wearing this headset, right? I like this kind of thing. I like this style. I actually did a lot of research on this headset, but this isn't the traditional thing you would use to get on a podcast. Most people would either have a much sleeker, more professional looking headset, or they'd have the microphone. And I just like this. This is part of my style. I like this. I like wearing the hats, stuff like that. So if you're just trying to look like everyone else, you're like, okay, this person has been successful or that person's been successful, and you're just adopting different traits of other individuals, you aren't even really building up a sustainable brand,
right?
Because it's based on other people, and it's hard to even have a good understanding of exactly everything you're copying. So just do what works for you, and don't be ashamed of it. Just keep working towards that. But yeah, I love that. I think about that a lot. And I think a lot about his individual content, probably even more than the specific advice that he's given me or that I've heard him give other people in person, because he's kind of the same. What you get on his social media is what he would tell you in person. So people think, oh man, if I could just have a day with Alex Hormozi or something, it would change my life. And I'm telling you, you can have a day with Alex Hormozi by watching his content. You don't have to be the person who asked the question in order to benefit from the answer. And he has answered so many questions, he and Layla, that if you just search through social media, you will find the questions that you want to know. And it is almost as good, I will say, as if you paid for a session to meet with him or a lot of other people as well. There's a lot of authentic people on social media.
What is the biggest myth when it comes to LinkedIn? I'd like to do myth busting, and
Yeah.
tell me a
good.
myth some belief that they have, which is just not true, and it's a
Uh,
polarized thing.
A lot of people see the whole platform as kind of gimmicky, being cheesy, of just it's super shallow. And that is true to a certain extent, but there's really two levels on LinkedIn. And most people are in the first top level, where they really only have their profile as kind of their resume up there. They're not involved in the community. in posting. And that's like maybe 80%. And then there's this bottom 20%. What's really unique about LinkedIn is that LinkedIn does not have a curated feed when you first join it. And that's different, as far as I know, than basically any other platform. Any other platform that you join, Twitter, YouTube, whatever, they're going to, as soon as you join, even if you don't have any connections or following anyone, they're going to show you, hey, here's some really interesting stuff from different creators that you can see in your feed. LinkedIn doesn't do that. They only show you the content coming from people that you follow, from your connections, from your second connections, things like that. So what happens is that most people have a terrible feed. It's just job announcements and work anniversaries and real cheesy posts from the top 0.001% of creators. And they look at it and are like, this is dumb. But it's not dumb if you can really dig in and find the good creators. My recommendation is to find a creator you really like, and then find the people that are commenting on their post, start connecting with them. It's going to plug you in. And every person's post is almost like their own mini community. So if you get involved and you kind of get to know those people, jump on some Zoom meetings just to meet people, just to talk to people. And you'll start to kind of discover that other side of LinkedIn. So it's gimmicky, it's hacky, it's cheesy. Yes, if you don't really know what you're doing on the app. But once you start to really dig in and discover those amazing creators on the platform, then it becomes a very rich place, and it's super encouraging, amazing community.
Sam, what book are you reading right now? Or what was the last book you read?
So I'm reading 10X is Better Than 2X. That's good. That's kind of a limited belief busting book, where we all think that we have to struggle through kind of the beginning stages for a very long time before we can break through, but you don't. You can really just kind of adopt a better mentality.
Who's the author of that one? 10X is Better Than 2X?
Gosh, I should know. I don't remember the name of the author off the top of my head.
We'll find it.
10X is Better Than 2X. I recommend that. And then I'm reading, I need to pick it up again. I started it, I just found it again. I misplaced the book in my house, but The Go-Giver, I had a ton of people recommend that book to me. And so I'll be finishing that up soon. Fingers crossed, knock on wood.
What's the best, final question, Sam. What's the best investment you've ever made? Best investment you ever made?
I would say the best investment I ever made is into my own personal brand, for sure. Just being consistent with it and persistent over a long period of time. It's one of those things where I think, like, what if I had to stop posting completely, if someone took over my own social media and I didn't have access to it, what would I sell that for? And that is a very high number. I would not want to get rid of that. It would basically, somebody would have to offer me enough money for me to retire on that completely, because I would not want to, it's so valuable to me. Yeah.
Sam, where can my listeners connect with you? Where's the best platform to connect with you? Is it LinkedIn?
It is LinkedIn, yeah. And I use LinkedIn more or less as my website as well.
Right.
Because I don't try to, I like people to just be able to go to one place, have what they need to know right from there, and not have to do a lot of links and clicks and stuff.
One final notable nugget for the audience. What's a key takeaway, key message that you just want to get across? One phrase thing.
Just really believe and invest in yourself. I think most people listening to this are more interesting than you think, right? Or not that you think, but then they think. People don't realize how amazing and interesting they really are, and it makes them scared to post on social media. But just dig in, share your own experiences, be vulnerable, and you will find an audience.
All right, let's wrap it up for today's episode of How to Find More Direct Clients. Stay tuned for more engaging discussions in the ever-evolving landscape of language and digital marketing. Until next time, stay on your game and future-proof that career in the AI era. Thanks from Sam Swirsky, my special guest, and bye from me. I'll see you next time.
Here's a fun fact about Jason. Jason loves watching Modern Family with his wife and 2 daughters. Thanks for tuning in to the How to Find More Direct Clients Than You Can Poke a Stick At podcast. We'll be back soon. In the meantime, why not head over to www.entrepreneurialtranslator.com to access all our tools and resources to monetize and future-proof your freelance translation business. And don't forget to hit the plus button in Apple Podcasts or iTunes, or subscribe in Spotify to be notified when new episodes drop. For regular tips and insights, business strategy, or marketing techniques straight to your inbox, please sign up at www.entrepreneurialtranslator.com.